And we are now live. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. I understand that the chat has been very active and like kind of almost to the point of writing for both my guests, which because they're the draw here, not me. We have Peter Simeti of Alterna Comics. We have Perch, the two best people on comics Twitter, if not in comics in general, that I've ever dealt with. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And hey, everybody, how's it going?
Yep, Peter's the only one brave enough to show his face. I would do it, but I look like a mess right now. When do I not look like a mess? And also, I can turn it. I'll be on camera every time I get in a drink. So yeah, but we also have Perch. So we got two different aspects: the creator, publisher, and the retailer side, as well as the fan. Both of you fans. All of us are fans of comics. So
I was expecting to see Peter over here packing boxes while we live.
Oh, they're off camera. Believe me, could barely get a setup going because there's so much around right now.
I've got a nice big order coming your way in the next 2 days too.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can hear the sarcasm in your voice, Peter. What's wrong?
I'll just add them to the pile. I'm just like throwing them in boxes at this point. I'm like, people are gonna get some comics. I don't know if they're gonna get the ones they ordered, but they'll get some comics.
Well, before you joined, it's time you got to get some help there, and you got to get some people to help you out.
Yeah, well, what I'm starting to do is it's starting to get a little streamlined. So I'm starting to do like 1 day Alterna stuff and file prep and whatever else, and then 1 day packing for like 15 hours. And it's kind of helping to dwindle things down. I'm managing to hit like 80 to 100 orders every time I do that. So that's pretty good, at least.
Very nice. Well, I mean, success is a good thing, and I mean, if you've been living under a rock and do not know, Peter here's got this AlternaWeen. That is one of the cleverest marketing campaigns I've seen in a long time. And it's doing really, really well. You passed your first goal, your first stretch goal, and you're going for your second, which I think you're going to hit in the next 48 hours.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad people are really coming out to support that. It's kind of a cool thing given the way the comics is trick or treats, and it's helping us to do expanded distribution into other avenues and other stores too. So it's kind of like a 1-2 punch sort of thing. But thank you, and I appreciate you spreading the word as well. I see you promoting it for us on Twitter too. So thanks.
Yeah, that's what. Well, it beats Girl Scout cookies for Halloween. So comics are better. Let's go with comics.
Absolutely.
Hey, Thin Mints are nice. Now, if you start making comic books on Thin Mints, I'd probably buy more, and I'd probably be like Jabba the Hutt, rolling in like more comic books. But I love the fact that you are actually doing something no one else is doing. You're trying to get more comics in the hands of people, which that poll you did a while back, that's where I got my comics. My first comic book ever got was from a drugstore, was gifted to me by somebody else. The first comic I ever bought was in a drugstore. So getting the comic books in other places doesn't mean, once you get them in drugstores, guess what? Go ahead and close the shops up. It's done. It's over, Johnny. Go ahead and close everything up. No, we don't have to do that. There can be shops, specialty items, books, hardcovers, oversized collections, omnibus trades, selected materials, the back issues, as well as books that you couldn't put on a spinner rack or a newspaper display stand, and you'd have to wrap it in plastic because of certain genitalia being exposed, but and also price. But that's another thing. It's the price. That's one thing I've noticed, that people say like, "Well, why does everybody say alternatives about price? You don't talk about content," because it's still amazing the fact that you're selling comic books for as low as you sell them. I told my postman when I was delivering some comics yesterday to mail out, and he's like, "What, $1.50?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that low, because he used to collect comic books back in the day." And he's like, I can't wrap my head around that." It's like I told him all about the deal. I was like marketed to my comics, working comics to the postman. So it's just the fact that it blows people's minds. It's still, hey, the little guy is actually outdoing as far as price and marketing and connecting to your readership and potential customers and current customers, and keeping that love and passion alive that you don't see from major corporations, well, soulless conglomerates that worry about the bottom line, T-shirts, t-shirts, the mugs, the action figures that are made with horrible, plastic stuff, and the movie ticket prices and all that stuff. You're just focused on the comics, folks, comics.
That's the funny part is that I mean, imagine what we could do with real big corporation money when we're just kind of rubbing pennies together half the time and just putting effort out there. I tell people all the time, it's either you're going to spend a lot of money or you're going to spend a lot of time. And right now, we've got a little bit of both at our disposal, fortunately, because of the fact that everybody's been pitching in with orders and everything like that. But for the longest time, it was just, trying to raise sales, trying to raise awareness, and something like AlternaWeen. I planned this pretty much like last year when a couple people were using our books as trick or treats, and I thought that was such a great idea. They were just buying them up, and then they were saying, "Well, I'm gonna use these instead of." Well, some of them were using instead of candy, but some of them were also giving candy too. And I thought that was so great. And if we had any excess or overstock or whatever, I would use that for an AlternaWeen campaign. And we did, and so far it's been going great. But I'm glad that so many people have just been excited about the books, and the lower price has enabled people to try them out. And maybe, it's a title that if it was $4 or $5 or something, maybe they wouldn't have been so eager to jump on board. But it's always great to hear a lot of people say, I wouldn't have tried it out if it wasn't $4 or $5. But now that I've read it because it was $1.50, I would pay $4 or $5 because that's how good it is. So we always want to give more value than what someone's paying for it. So they feel really good about the purchase. And then on top of it, they're able to support with other avenues because they've got a little more money left over too. So, one day maybe the creators at Alterna will have t-shirts and stickers and toys and whatever else. And they'll have that readership there to support. So it's great to see so many people on board because of that.
Well, and it's so I mean, for the again, and not trying to turn it into a commercial for you, but you deserve it. I think you can get a 50 comic bundle, $30. 50 comics. That's 50 trick or treaters. Think about your house. Probably, I don't know. That's about what I get. That's 60 cents an issue. So that's 1985 pricing. I don't know how many people were born then. I'm the old one. So, I don't know how many listeners were born back then, but 1985 pricing. So, more than 30 years ago pricing for comics, you can get 50 comics for $30 and give them out as trick or treats. You'll be the most popular house on the block. I mean, how can you not? So, sorry, best plug I can give you, man.
It's absolutely true. It's true, and thank you for it. Yeah. So it's you getting. For anyone interested, it's AlternaWeen.com. I'll take you right to the Indiegogo. And it's an assorted bundle of all ages and teen appropriate comics. And you get 50 of them for $30. You can also get 100 for 60. And I think you get the most bang for your buck if you get the 200. You get a little bit of a bigger discount. But I'm right now, it's like 11,000 to 12,000 comics in total that are being purchased for this event. So it's kind of a bigger deal than I think most people would really stop and think about at first, because you could potentially be giving a comic, the first ever comic that a kid would read, could be because of this. And you can create that lifelong love of comics, that readership, that a new creator, perhaps, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, that's a new creator that pretty much got into comics because they got that comic book on Halloween. And it's all because of the fact that we don't see that many comics in places anymore. We used to see comics everywhere. You couldn't go to a store really without seeing some comic books at least. And now it's harder and harder to come by. So it's great that so many people are jumping on board with that. That's potentially thousands of new readers. That's potentially thousands of kids out there that are going to get that comic on Halloween. And maybe they go to the comic shop. Maybe they pick up some more. Maybe they start reading Alterna or another company or whatever. It's great, and I'm really happy to be a part of that.
Well,
Glad that you're
it is good stuff. And if you're a creator out there, I think, how you're not doing this. I mean, you are building your readership for the future. If you're a shop, ordering some of these and giving them out for free this is how you get free comics day. You get the adult and the kid coming into your shop, which happens all the time. So you're just curious what's in there. Right away when they step in the door, they're not going to buy anything because they're clearly not regular comic fans. I mean, imagine the goodwill, for $30, you can have a nice pile of something. $100, you have a nice pile of something where you just hand the kid a comic book on the way out the door and say, hey, why don't you check this out? Come back. This is the marketing I've been asking for years out of the big two, the big three. This is the kind of stuff we need. So thank you very much. Again, sorry for, spend the first 15 minutes in hard hype mode, but really this is a great thing to jump onto.
Thank you. It means a lot to hear that. And I know that they do Halloween Comic Fest, but from talking to my local comic shops, they all have a lot to complain about that event. So
yeah, that's not normal.
Yeah.
This is better. Yeah.
Yeah, this is far better because of the fact that you're getting it into people's hands. And like you said, so many comics, when you see comics in the wild, they don't even look like comics because the designers, the production staff at Marvel or DC or whoever, it can be everywhere, Image 2, Creator, or whatever, they design it to make it look like a trade paperback, the mass market trade paperback, where it's just bland, it has no soul to it. But the Alterna books, I mean, I don't know if you pull like a slight art director. I mean, I don't, I know you wear many hats, but Peter, but the fact that Alterna covers, I mean, they stand out. That they're how they used to do. Like, well, it had to stand out if it's on a rack. It'd have to stand out amongst other things. That idea didn't have to die. Just like word balloons had to die, speed lines didn't have to die. Like certain things, like variant covers, yes, they should be taken out, back shot, and left in the ditch somewhere. But,
I know you've got the hate. You've got the hate for the variant covers, probably more than I do. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of those.
The main reason is because they do know. Like, I understand for certain artists that they lost a spark to create, and hey, I can make more money doing variant covers. I'm like, hey, that's great. Just go do commissions. Get out of here. Go do posters, commissions, sell your prints online. Keep your art off the covers if you ain't doing the interiors. Hell, do a backup story. Do a 4-page backup. Then you could get to do the cover because technically you are working in the book. But I'm such a I don't know why it got in my head, the variant cover stuff. I think mainly it started during the Jeff Johns, Dale Eaglesham JSA book when the variant covers were Dale Eaglesham covers, and they were actually like showing what was going on in the book, and the actual covers were Alex Ross covers, like the figure covers. And I was like, nothing. That doesn't tell me nothing. Give me the Dale Eaglesham cover. So I was like I was like madman over here talking nonsense. Like, who would want that? It's Alex Ross. I'm like, I'm tired of Alex Ross. He does too many covers, not enough interiors. Get out of here, Alex. Go do this.
Yes. I think I don't blame the cover artist, the variant cover artist, as much as what's going on inside the covers. I mean, it at the very least, what's inside the covers should be high quality, good stuff. It's variants irritate me as a retailer. Just the incentive programs you have to do to order them, and they just create a headache for me. That's what I hate about them. I would love to see Alex Ross and Art Adams, some of these guys doing regular covers or regular interiors again. But if we're not going to have that, then let's go find the next Art Adams, the next the next Alex Ross, the next anybody. Just we need to have the people coming up being of that same quality.
Yeah, that's what I really don't get, because of the fact that, I mean, we all know why this is occurring, but you'll always see that, especially Marvel will say something like, don't reach out to us, we'll reach out to you. And all I could think is we have mountains of talent. I've seen so much talent come through Alterna in the past 12 years, and almost none of it has ever wound up at Marvel or DC. Yeah. And I mean, for instance, even like I've got within arm's reach, I got Eric Henson's Eden, and Eric and his team are ridiculously talented. And Eric did a little something for Image, but that's about it. He didn't really, and he's got tremendous talent, should be wiping the floors with everybody with his work at Marvel or DC, but yet, lo and behold, here he is at Alterna. I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, I'm very confused and puzzled as to, you can't You can't keep pushing the shtick of, oh, we're always scouting for the best and this and that. You guys are like, you're barely going past like Tumblr or Instagram half the time, it looks like, to find your newest talent. And part of the reason that I hate having a different cover artist on the cover, especially when the cover is like an Alex Ross cover or something, it feels like a bait and switch. You know, I loved it when you knew what you were getting inside on the story in terms of the art based on the cover art, and that was the whole point in comics, was to help you sell the issue itself. The cover drew you in, and somewhere along the line it turned into just, you know, treat it like it's a print, and almost like, to hell with what goes on inside. It could just be all blank. It could be meaningless and nothing. As long as the cover looks really great, who cares? And man, I don't like to necessarily knock on other practices within the industry. I'd rather just do what we're doing. But at the same time, that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing, is because I'm seeing all these things I don't really like. I wish they were different, and we're doing something about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is the industry's in a strange place, but the country's in a strange place. And I'm not trying to veer us this way, but I mean, you know, we had a day full of insanity, and you see it reflected everywhere. But it feels like there's a lot of people fighting constantly and continuously, and there's a lot of outrage, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of, you know, people making stands and all the rest. And there's no end game in sight. It's just anger on top of anger on top of anger, and there's no win. And even though obviously I don't agree with all the positions that are going on at any given time, but if you're going to fight, you should have a goal in mind. You should have some kind of win in mind. And for a lot of these people, there's no win. And meanwhile, you have this industry where people, and Larry and I've talked about before, we talked about a little bit, Peter, there's not enough money in this industry, and there should be. You've got major movies, you have IP, billion-dollar IP being created. So any creator at Marvel, DC right now, if they're putting a new character in the mix, they're potentially creating a billion-dollar piece of IP for Disney or Time Warner. And yet you have people working, you know, I made the comment the other day, you know, entry-level admins, entry-level receptionists at tech companies make more than a lot of the creators. That is completely wrong. That is, and everyone should be universally pissed off about that. Yet, you know, there's this acceptance of this idea that this is not really a career, it's a hobby for people. Yep. And that is what's going to screw us, you know, regardless of Comicsgate or not Comicsgate or outrage or not outrage, whatever the pissed off thing of the day is. If you are willing to accept that you're going to work for basically nothing, and this is going to be your night job, you know, that you do when you're not a barista at Starbucks, then you're in the wrong career. And so you will not get the high talent coming in, and you won't get the people joining. And then the high value IP will not be being created at these big companies. And then, you know, we're going to go nowhere. And that to me is the sad part.
Yeah. You know, it used to be Marvel and DC were the pinnacle. You know, it used to be that was what you wanted to achieve and strive and aim for as a creator. And you see everyone that came out in the, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, it felt like, wow, you know, I don't know if I could ever be that good, but I'm going to try. And now you look at it and you're like, the indies, I'm seeing mountains of talent, and maybe 20-30% of what's produced at the big two looks like top tier pinnacle A-list stuff. So all I could think is obviously, you know, it's the big corporate mindset of you want to maximize profits. So you're going to hire talent that's not going to really demand that much. They're going to work for less. You're going to get what's commensurate with that. And they're going to create this kind of feeding frenzy where the competition is very fierce, and it's very it puts everybody on their heels a bit, so everyone's defensive, and you know, you're feeling very stressed out because there's lack of security with that position already. There's even more lack of security when you know that company will just hire the next person off of, you know, Tumblr or whatever that does something decent. So I always, you know, I'm an indie guy. People tell me, you know, what would you want to work on at the big two? And I used to want to work on stuff. I could care less at this point. But to me, that's the mindset to go with, is to if you want to have a story that's original and unique, you want to do this different spin on a character or something, let's say, what happened to being inspired by, as opposed to, well, I want to get into the company so I can tweak a character that's been existing that was created by somebody else. As a creator and someone who's very creator-own driven, I have a very deep problem with wanting to go in there. And even if it's a company's IP, I know a person, a human being created that, a person who put a lot of time and effort and soul into that. And if I'm not being respectful towards that creator's vision, I feel like it's kind of trampling all over their legacy just so I could kind of extend my own, which feels like a very selfish and destructive thing to do as a creator. I'd rather just create as opposed to tear down and destroy. I'd rather build upon what's been done before me. And I think that a lot of people are upset because it was like that for so long. And this new wave is coming in, and it's like tearing down and telling everybody that, well, that's the old stuff, and this is the new stuff, and you're going to like the new stuff. Every time that's happened in the industry, it's been rejected fiercely.
Yeah.
Only this point in time, it feels like there isn't that business mindset to go, we screwed up, we got to fix it. It feels like, no, we're going to give you more of what you don't like until, I don't know, creators go under, books go under, stores go under. It feels very weird.
It's the communism mindset. Well, that wasn't real. That wasn't real communism. It'll work next time. You know, that's what it feels like. A lot of them, and I've noticed how a lot of I follow. I used to follow a lot more, but there are a lot of creators that have this socialist mindset. It's like I understand. Hey, work for hire. You work. A receptionist has, most of them work for these tech companies. They get paid, like you said, get paid better. But unlike, nobody really wants to be a receptionist. So there's always people waiting in the wings for comic book industry. It's like, oh, wow, you think you're too big? They'll just forget you. Oh, you're an artist? Oh, wow, you want to be, Mr. Attitude? Well, they get somebody from the third world to come in and do your job for half the price. Or heck, even you get somebody local and they'll just, somebody hungry enough and they'll take the gig. And that's all you got to do. And that's a scary part. It's like, wow, like, I'm replaceable. Yeah, you are. And that's the unfortunate side of, corporate comics. Not when you don't own something yourself. It's like, wow, I wrote this character for this many years. I'm like, well, what else do you have? I mean, it's like when I go to conventions, I'm like, I don't want to buy a print. Do you have like a mini comic or are you selling some of your old books, or heck, sell me a zine? I don't care if you're a writer, like you can't really do art, but write something down. Like write little short stories or something. Sell me something I can actually print. Does me no good. I don't have the room to put these prints up. I bought like a couple for charity, and I was given some for getting a 3-day pass for a convention and stuff like that. It's like outside that, it's like I don't buy them. I don't see a point. But I was talking to Josh Howard, creator Dead at 17, the other day on stream, and he was like, I'll see if I could get a corporate gig. Oh, he thought he knew somebody. Couldn't get a gig. And that's just how it happens. I mean, you have to know the right people. You have to be a right person that knows the right person.
Well, yeah, I mean, the industry's not growing. I think you look at tech, and I mean, as people know, I work in tech in my because I have to support my store so it doesn't go out of business. So I do consulting and other things, which is sad in of itself. But in the tech community and in these kinds of companies, it's fiercely competitive. There is this underlying sense that you're replaceable, and everybody strives to work harder and secure their position and go up because there's so much money in it. You know that if you do the right things, then you can get to the 6-figure job, and then you can get to the 200K job, and then you're just going up all the time. And your skills are very marketable, and so it's this nice game. In comics, there's this kind of artificial glass ceiling, but it's a glass ceiling for everyone. It's not based on any kind of race or gender thing. It's just sitting there. And people have kind of accepted this idea that, the old 90s, you could be a celebrity, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Levi commercial stuff. That's gone. Those days are done. And so if you want to actually make big money and you want to be a pseudo celebrity, you're going to have to go sell a screenplay. You're going to have to go get a job at a games company. You're going to have to get out. So rather than going up, your route to success is out. And if your route to success is out, then all of the smart, hard-driven, really aggressive creators are going to just try and get there as quickly as possible. And the others are going to kind of hang out, do their job, but the entire time they're thinking, yeah, there's no real upside to me, improving my skill or going hard, other than my own creative drive. And that's an important part, because there are lots of creators out there who are self-motivated to be better, do better, create a legacy. And those people are awesome and good for them, but that's coming from within. The problem with the industry is that the industry is not providing that route. It's you got to have your own motivation to go up. And if you don't have it, Marvel's not going to give it to you. DC's not going to give it to you. Image will sort of give it to you in the sense that you can kind of do your own future, but that cap is the problem, or one of the big problems. And so that's why I get all irritated at times. I know I piss people off when I look like I'm playing both sides. It's not playing both sides. It's just I want money to come into this industry. That's what helps us.
I think, especially, well, first of all, if anybody's getting really, really aggravated or pissed at something that you're saying, I mean,
well,
you're talking logic. I know people don't really want to hear logic right now. People want to hear emotional arguments and then things like that. And I get that too, because everybody's in a different state of mind right now.
Absolutely.
But in order to have the end game that we're all talking about, you have to define, well, what is the purpose of this anger, of addressing this problem, of whatever? Because if there's no purpose and you're just flailing around, it's a great way to waste a lot of energy and to create a lot of weird buzz, but it's not going to accomplish anything. So if we can actually figure out, well, if I'm upset about certain aspect of the industry or a certain book or a certain creator, let's say, if I at least have that end game in sight, I know, okay, well, here's the next step after, and then the next step and the next step. But if it's just to get constantly angry all the time, it's not going to do anything. And so to go back to something that Larry had said too about prints and things like that, I'm always kind of shocked at how much writers who are just solely writers, they're not anything else, they have no value in their work in terms of, why don't you guys maybe print out a script of an issue or a page of a script and sign and sell that at conventions? Why don't you do like a writer sketch card and you write like a little panel or something out, or some kind of phrase or whatever from a character, sign it and sell it for something. There's so many ways that you can use your writing, and that would be kind of cool to get. And instead, writers are just kind of, the woe is me, I'm in Artist Alley and no one appreciates me kind of thing.
Yeah.
You got to be creative about it. That's always so frustrating to me, to see so many creative people in this industry be completely uncreative and be completely lack that outside the box way of thinking. It's something that's so weird.
You are so right, by the way. I think I've heard this lament many times from writers. Nobody wants to see me. Maybe I get a signature, but I mean, again, look at writing in general. Stephen King sells his manuscripts and some of his early notes for hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. You don't think that Bendis can't put some scripts out there and sell them off? Of course, all of you, all the writers can. It's a complete commentary. Somebody just wrote, writers and artists should do commentary tracks. I've been saying this for months. Absolutely. The director's cut aspect of books, if you want to get digital started, any of these things, those kinds of things are brilliant ideas. It will bring money into the industry. It will secure your job. It will make you more of a celebrity. I mean, come on, it's easy. This stuff is easy.
Yeah, it feels like the whole industry is overcomplicating real simple, basic problems. Like where no one is highlighting problems that you look at that and you go, oh wow, I never thought about that before. That's a really interesting thing. Everyone's bringing up very basic errors in not just business, but just in plain normal interactions that occur, and going, well, why would you do it like this? This is completely, we all know this doesn't work. Like there's been long histories of other companies and other business people and other people in interactions and all kinds of stuff that you can look at that and go, let's learn from what they did wrong and not do that. And it seems like as an industry in comics that we are so backwards on every single level. We are so just, treading the same path of failure as opposed to looking when were we our most successful. Let's copy what happened at that point in time. Everything is just doubling down on what didn't work. And then when it doesn't work, you do the worst thing you could possibly do, which is to blame your customers. And you can't survive like that.
No, you can't. And it's and it is the failing of the part that's most broken in comics, and people like to go to some of the individuals or some of the creators, some of the comments on Twitter and so on. But the part to me that's most broken is that there used to be a good institution at these publishers where you had people who were, regardless of their title, they were doing marketing, they were doing strategy, they were doing these kinds of ideas for how to get people out there. I mean, the entire convention model was built because some people had an idea of how to get this stuff marketed. And today, those roles are filled by, literally people who their last job was Kinko's or Taco Bell. Some of them have posted their LinkedIn's, and these are right out of retail people coming into these jobs at the big two who are in charge of marketing and strategy. They have no idea what they're doing. Maybe they're nice people, maybe not. It doesn't really matter. But they're leaving all these creators, this industry, people like me, people like you, all of us out to dry because we depend on them to push this industry forward. And when the idea is, hey, let's do a little, whatever it was, 2-minute video of us kind of joking around and running to a con. Come on, that stuff makes no sense. It doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, I felt really bad for those people.
Yeah,
I have no clue what you're talking about. I'm glad.
Oh yeah, you have to see it.
Oh, it's bad. It's one of those things where it's like 10 years, your kids are going to see that and they're just going to mock you to the rest of your life. It's not good.
It's just trying so hard. It really is, and I feel bad.
I used to listen to Opie and Anthony, and there was a lot of cringe and horrible stuff. So maybe I could be prepared for it. But yeah, the whole idea of writers and colorists and other people that, that when you go to conventions, like a lot of people, they gravitate towards the artists for good reason, because you can buy original artwork, you can get sketches, and some artists, depending on how fast they are, will give you free sketch. Say what you will about Eric Larson and the proclivities of his current Savage Dragon run, but I've met him at Heroes Con multiple times. Guy was a nice guy in person. Nice guy. Talked to you about comics. Have original artwork for sale. Savage Dragon page, like going back, like over more than a decade and stuff like that. And he do sketches. If you get there on a Friday, he'll do free sketches. Saturdays, free sketches. Sundays, because he's doing commission work. But these are really good stuff. I have a few things that he's done, and it's great. But online, the presences of certain people have unfortunately, wow, that colorist, that's a horrible, they're acting horribly towards me. The letterer, same thing. And then, you have to evaluate, do I want to, are you willing to drop a book and say, you know what, writer, artist, everybody else, the one person, the one bad apple, I'm not going to read this book because of that person. It's one of those problems in the current climate. Like, wow, John Byrne, he's a rude guy and this, that, whatever. I'm like, She-Hulk, Fantastic Four, Man of Steel, Alpha Flight, X-Men. I can't, the work speaks for itself. And
yeah,
the idea of having to like someone before you can actually read something, it's like this demand. Like some people want to do the purity test stuff. It's like, what are your politics? What do you think about this? It's my brain again. Josh Howard talked about this the other day. He was getting he talked about how he got contacted somebody from DC. One of the first things they asked is like, because he's from Texas, are you a Republican? And it's like, wow, that doesn't have anything to do with my job. I make comics.
Those are discrimination laws that are being violated there.
I know. I mentioned that to him. It's like, yeah, that was one of whoa, but it was a while back. I don't know if there's statutes or anything like that. Maybe that person no longer works there. Maybe they do. Who knows? But it's stuff like that it's always been there. People just, lack of constant social media presence. You have to worry about the Comics Journal.
I mean, keep in mind, social media, and a lot of people will be surprised by me saying this. I mean, you know, like you take Eric Larson. Eric Larson has picked a strategy with his social media. That's what he's doing, and he's got a personality there. And you're right. If you've ever met him at a con or in real life, he's actually pretty soft spoken, pretty nice. He's, I don't know, he's, you know, normal average guy. You know, John Byrne was absolutely more of a terror in real life than, you know, or Peter David. There's another guy who'd go off the handle. But Larson's always been pretty chill in real life. Online, he posts the way he posts, but it's a strategy for him. He's doing it to get attention. He's doing it to kind of make a name for himself quick, and that's what he does. And I think, you know, you can like it or not like it. It ultimately becomes irrelevant. I think the other thing I'll say that I know a lot of people online disagree with is that all this outrage, all this stuff we've seen over the last year about creators and everything else, I'm telling you from the aspect of the store, and you can look at Comic-Con, you can look at other numbers. People act like crazy people on social media. It's rarely reflected in the sales. And I know that sounds crazy to people. It's like against all logic we've been hearing. It's the quality that slams the sales. It's the social media stuff barely makes a dent because so few people are paying attention. It looks like lots of people are paying attention to us on Twitter, and, you know, things like, you know, block bots, which hurt promotion. That stuff is it's negative, it's bad, it's going to have an impact long term. But if inside the comic you got a different artist every other week or every other month, the solicits don't match what's in the issue, you know, the comic is $4.99, you're getting pissed. Those are the things that are causing the hit to sales.
Yeah, I think the social media stuff is, and I've had this talk with our creators too, when they were talking about, especially some of the creators that had left. I said, look, you can think whatever it is that you want to think in terms of you don't want X, Y, and Z person to read your book, or you don't want to market to them. Fine. Market to the people that you want to read your book. Yeah. So instead of doing the thing where we see, you know, you look at social media and it's hard to quantify the negative impacts. It's easier to quantify positive impact. So you can make up any excuse in the world as to why isn't a book doing well. But if you promote, if you have a positive interaction with fans, if you look like someone who says nice things about your book and your co-creators and about your readers, that gets people who may not have been interested into wanting to be interested. So it turns into all the bad stuff might not be necessarily, you know, crushing books and killing sales and all that stuff, but it's not helping them to grow. And I think that's kind of something where a lot of these creators and publishers, they're not seeing the gains that can be had by just having normal, basic, not even customer service, but just normal, basic, polite human interaction, and being proud of the work that they're doing and wanting to share that work with people. That's the kind of thing that I would love to see more. I would love to see, okay, you don't need to market to whoever you don't want to market to. No one is telling you to do that. I've never told anyone to do that. But I said, promote your work, because your audience will find that. The people who like what they see will find that. But if you're too busy hating everyone else and telling how many people you don't want to read your work to not read your work, you end up losing all the positive interaction you could have had by going, hey, I made this thing. I'm proud of it. Check it out. I hope you like it.
Yeah, there's absolutely. No, I mean, there's not you think about the time, your time in a day is limited. You only have so many hours in a day to get things done. And if you choose the majority of that time telling people to go away, you don't like them, you're angry with what they're saying, then you're leaving very little time to promote positively where you want your book to go. Oh, you want no Republicans to read your book? That's cool. Then you better double down on the Democrats. I mean, whatever you're going to do it. But you've got to get sales somewhere. You can't just piss people off and then be surprised when you've isolated half your audience, you didn't bother to go get the other half.
Yeah, because I think people get they might get some of that interaction, that easy outrage interaction when they feel like they're being a bit virtuous and saying things like, you know, who they don't like and who they don't support, and raising kind of like that buzz through that avenue. But the other thing that I always consider, and this is a big reason as to why I always try to branch out into other places, is I'm looking for that person who maybe, I mean, we've been around for 12 years. maybe they have no idea. This is their first time. This is today when they discover Alterna Comics. They discover me. They discover our work. They discover the creators at Alterna. Maybe this is their first ever time, and they stumble upon my page because they saw a book and they just remembered it and they wanted to look up something. And they'll come across our page and see, oh, we thank customers. Oh, we're pleasant to interact with. Oh, our creators enjoy talking to readers. That creates, I got to check out this book. It creates that kind of interaction and reaction, as opposed to if you were to go to my page and it's listed with, nonstop political rhetoric, nonstop castigating of customers that I don't want, nonstop talking down on other creators or on some controversy that, let's face it, 99.9% of the world is completely oblivious to and could care less about.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing of, what is the end game again? Because my end game is to get more comics to more people. So if I'm going to be talking about comic books and this and that or whatever, I'm going to definitely do that in a light that makes people want to read comics, that makes people want to check out our comics, and makes people want to talk to me about their purchase because they're proud and happy of it, and they want to share that with me. And I'm going to thank them for it. It's something that it's basic. It's basic human decency. It's basic business. So when you see these creators that and sometimes publishers and other higher ups, they can't seem to understand that basic factor of interaction of social media networking and customer service and being polite. It's so confusing to me. I can't understand it at all.
It's the easiest marketing you'll ever do, and it's when you live in a world where your publisher is not doing anything for you. I see creators lamenting the fact that they're, you read Chelsea Kane's interview, she gets half of it. She gets that the publisher did not do a good job of marketing her book or really standing behind her or pushing what she was trying to do. She gets that part. But then the reaction is, hey, let's go on Twitter and just further isolate people. That's just not good logical thinking. If the publisher's not doing it for you, you better do it yourself. This is something that Mark Miller understood. It's something that Reminder understood. A lot of the indies who are now doing their thing. If you play out the world of comics 10 years from now, I feel pretty confident that Miller's going to have his deal with Netflix continuing clocking away, and Reminder is going to have a couple series out there, and he's going to have a decent empire. And meanwhile, the big two are going to be continually scraping the IP that they already have because they haven't been able to catch on new things, and the old stuff's just getting regurgitated, and that is the danger.
And that's right there, that idea of just grinding and the grind that Mark Miller, and as many issues I had Mark Miller in the past, when he started doing past Kick-Ass, and then like we get into the Super Crooks and we get into Starlight and we get into Kingsman and stuff like that, I was like, wow, this is the Mark Miller I like. And Huck was a wonderful comic, and unfortunately with the Netflix deal, like their quality of programming, but hey, he's making money, so that's good on him. If they implode, he hopefully could take his stuff, and like maybe there's some kind of clause if they implode that he can go somewhere else. But with these creators, like I've only done one show in my life, and in a way it was a learning experience, slightly traumatizing, bizarre, all of it. It was a mini comics. It's called Denver Zine Fest. It was in a gay-friendly, LGBTQ-friendly church in Denver. They put me in the annex. They sold everything out. They put me in an annex where you had to walk out of the way to get to me, down a hallway. Behind me is the church itself, where you got to see the pews and the statue of Jesus out there in the stained glass windows. So you had to walk to me. So I had a lady knock my stuff over. Then I had a guy, he had his kid in his arms. The kid kicked all my stuff over. I was with a friend at the time, and he was miserable because I was doing better selling comics because I was miserable, but I didn't let people know. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I want to get out of here. I'd rather be in North Carolina right now. I'm here in Denver. I'm stuck. I don't have enough money to get on a bus or a plane or rent a car. I'm stuck here until my flight comes back up, and I don't want to stay in the airport. But I'm like, hey, how you doing? Had cult members try to recruit me. The person running the show says we're having a diversity in comics panel. We asked that no Caucasians attend. I'm like, what? And the person happens to be a female to male transgender person. And it was this, where am I? I'm on another planet. And I tried not to let that paint any potential customers in a bad light. I wanted to sell as many comics as I could. That means less stuff I have to mail back to myself. And I did pretty good, surprisingly. It was bizarre. There was people that actually got up and left because of the lack of sales. I'm like, I had no place to go. The guy I was with was my ride back. And it was just strange to have this happen. But I think that right there could translate to any convention or any marketing. Like, if you're marketing yourself, if you're selling yourself online, not prostitution, but creating comics, though sometimes it does feel like prostitution. It's like, we're going to kiss me first. Come on, right? But that treating people respectfully, even if you don't like there's some people, like, I don't always agree with them, but I try not to, like, how dare you, and like be all indignant towards them. Like, why do that to potential customers? Honestly, why do that to people in general? If you don't like it, don't follow them. Don't look at what they say. There's always an unfollow button. There's a mute button. Hell, there's a block button if you have to. But especially on social media, it's like, it is a great potential to grow an audience. And now that people hopefully will see that, yeah, you can block people with block bots, but you'll only grow. You can't. You'll hit that. You'll intentionally put a glass ceiling of yourself that you'll never break. But if you go out and put yourself out there, like Ryan Wynn, perfect example, getting himself out there, being polite, maybe he's being himself. Hopefully he is, because he seems like a great character. But putting himself out there,
Ryan Wynn is a complete fraud and a total bastard.
Oh, damn, Peter.
Ryan,
all right, we're getting to it now.
Ryan is a fantastic human being. I have a lot of love for Ryan.
His only problem is he's a West Coaster like Perch, so they got to move. They got to move east, because when that caldera explodes, I'm not gonna go rescue them. when the ice age comes because of it was Yosemite. I'm not gonna rescue them in the nuclear winter. They can come down south on their own accord. Just remember, if there's a countersign, you better say the right countersign. You might end up part of this example, like Planet of the Apes style.
I head right up into Canada for all that free healthcare I've been hearing about.
Wait in line, right? Yeah. Wait in line for 2 days, but it's free, eh?
Hey. They got Tim Hortons. I can't bash it.
Well, those that do, I mean, how dare they? But but no, it's like you two. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, the passion you two show for what you do, Peter, what you do on a regular basis, and as much as you'd said previously how Stan Lee was an influence on you, that I think you actually outdo Stan Lee, because the interaction, it's like you're the one-man band. You write, you draw, you publish, you letter, you color, you do every single thing, and you haven't become cynical and hate-filled and maybe behind closed doors that you're, when you have to power up your nuclear battery cells because you're from the future, but it's maybe like you have a program that expels all the anger and disappointment. But I used
to play hockey every week. Now I haven't been able to play hockey in like a week. I mean, not a week, in a year. Oh boy, my brain's fried. Yeah, in like a year. I used to play. I played for I played for like almost 13 years in a row, like at least once or twice a week.
See, there's the common thread. I used to play hockey too back in the day, so that's that. Now we figured out the connection.
There you go. What position did you play?
I played with a company, so literally it was whatever position they put me in. So
cool.
It was crap. It's not like you.
I used to backyard wrestle until I nearly had a brick. I felt the ring that was propped up by using red bricks. I got choke slammed through the ring, and my head ended up right next to a brick. And I realized, okay, I'm done. My wrestling career is over. My backyard wrestling career has ended less than 2 months into it. And I was like, I'm gonna stay inside, play video games, and read comic books and draw. It's much safer. So that's what I did. But it's funny to see that there are people still out there that when all this chaos is going on, when the comic side of stuff, you go out and sidewalk, but can you believe this creator said this? I'm like, well, if you know the creator's going to say it, why do you follow this person? It's like one of those things. If it upsets you that much, why do you do this? It's like it's like flogging yourself. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. Like you're masochistic, right? You're a sadist or whatever. You know, oh, it's masochistic, like playing upon himself. But yeah, just going out there and like subjecting yourself to that when you're not being productive. It's like, yeah, I get ticked and I'm being slightly hypocritical right now, but okay, whatever. But still, I'm trying to do something. And I think that idea, and also realizing that, wow, the Alterna slots are filling up soon. That's another thing I want to talk to you about, Peter. This whole idea that, you know, after everything that happened, like, oh, nobody will ever deal with Alterna Comics, and the fact that you've been swarmed with sales and pitches and projects, and the fact that you, because you didn't back down, you didn't, you know, crumple like, oh, I'll apologize. You know, a lot of people, they'll apologize, but since you're your own boss, you don't have to worry about that. Some company throw you under the bus, because if it did, that would be kind of weird to see you throw your own self under the bus.
I was really, oh man, after everything, I was really considering trolling everybody with that, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna. But that would have been pretty funny. But yeah, when I was in the thick of it, man, that was rough. And I've said it before, but I wanna just reiterate. I wasn't upset about the close to 1,000 people, because that's who I didn't have anyone muted or blocked or what. I still don't have anybody blocked, but I didn't have anybody muted before all of that. And I've got close to 1,000 people that are muted at this point, because it was just nonstop crazy crap coming at me. And I was like, don't want to see that. You're crazy. Nope. And it was just that kind of thing. Because to me, when you mute, you're essentially saying, I don't want to see the craziness you have to bring to me today. When you block, you're saying, I don't want you to see what I have to say. So, because when you block someone, it's more like, you know, they go away. But at the same time, you're more saying that, like, the things I have to say, I don't want you to see. Whereas you can keep seeing what I have to say. I don't have anything crazy to say. I'm not going to sit there all day long on Twitter and badmouth anyone who is going after me, or some of the Alterna creators that have, you know, went a little bit above and beyond and things like that. But it was really funny, because so many people thought that I was upset by a lot of the online interactions. And yeah, it was upsetting in the terms of, you know, wow, like, I can't believe there's so much of it. This is insane. But what really got me in such a bad place was for 2 to 3 days in a row, it was tons of emails that I was getting from creators, from anonymous people that were sending me all kinds of threats and nasty messages. Every single time for 2 days, every single time it was a creator that was in my inbox, it was someone who was leaving. And the thing is that 80% to 98% of the people who were leaving were already done. So I was like, why are you telling me you're leaving and saying all these awful things about me, and saying that I'm this awful kind of person, and then at the end of it saying, oh, well, you know, I just want you to know I still think you're a good guy. I'm like, you literally in the email just said I promote and support hate groups, but I'm still a good guy. What are you talking about? Because you just made a post that said I'm not a good guy, that said you don't like me, that said that you don't approve of anything I'm doing or saying, and is painting an awful target on my back to the wrong kind of people that took umbrage with that and wanted to send me some pretty nasty things because of it. And I was like, you helped fuel that. The funniest thing with the social media policy to me too was the fact that I had released that almost 2 months prior to when it was released publicly online. And the only reason that I even put it out was in response to the fact that there was that whole big thing about, you know, there's no excuse for harassment and all this other stuff. And here I thought, okay, we've got a social media policy that pretty much says that we try to make it as inclusive as possible for both our readers, potential readers, and our creators. But we acknowledge the fact that sometimes online interactions can be a bit dicey. And if a creator is getting harassed online or otherwise, that we'd be there with them, whether that's advice, whether that's legal help, whether that's just me going in there to go to a reader or someone who's maybe harassing a creator about a book and saying, oh, hey, you know, sorry you had this bad experience. I hope that you have a better experience with one of these other books. Maybe these are for you. Anything. To my knowledge, we've never had a creator that came to Alterna, to me, and said, I'm being harassed by someone. Can you help us out? Never. The only person that I'm aware of that's ever been harassed at Alterna is me. And this kind of stuff is like, you know, that's the kind of thing that I thought that, okay, we will release that and show that we're not just giving empty words or anything like that, but that we actually stand by our creators, but we also want to provide this welcoming atmosphere for readers and potential readers. And when it blew up the way it did, it said way more about everybody else than it did about us. So it was really weird to see. It was kind of like a Rorschach test of social media, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. It was sad to see it play out. Not surprising to see it play out. You came out of it the other end stronger, and the company is stronger. You're getting more, and which was the inevitable result. But seeing that play out, which really at the end of the day, the social media policy was a backdrop. It was really the fact that you were courteous to people that other people didn't like. I mean, that is at the end of the day. You know, you, like an adult, said thank you to somebody who paid you a compliment. And to some people, it is black and white. You cannot be, you know, it doesn't matter. You cannot do anything that in any way thanks or responds or corresponds to anyone. And it was your turn, unfortunately. We've seen a lot of people go through this blender. And the challenge is every time that blender happens, it's less effective each time. It is losing steam. It does not help the people who, you know, campaign and charge into it. Their careers are not growing and not going up, and it's just eating value away. And like I said earlier, you know, we're not seeing the comic shop. We're not seeing the social media outrage enter the comic shop in most cases. That is one of the big, I think, kind of myths that gets passed around that I wish people would stop because it undermines their credibility. But what you do see happen is a lack of passion and a lack of enthusiasm and a lack of marketing and a lack of general momentum in this industry that should have it. And that is absolutely being felt in the comic shop. That stuff is hurting. And so, I mean, the creator that's going to spend all day ranting away on social media is not a creator that's putting their time and effort, passion into their work. And it shows in the work. And that is where that's where we're falling apart. So, you know, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I mean, thankfully, you went through it. Now we're on the other end. Will be completely unsurprised if you get another bout of it here in a couple.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally expecting it. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to keep on getting stuff as we grow and things like that. But at this point, it's a different position of confidence that I feel that we're in. All the creators that are with Alterna now all had really wonderful private messages to send to me. A lot of them were very upset seeing some of the other creators bail out the way they did and say some of the awful things they said. And now it's if anything, it came out to be really great, because when people see a book and they see this logo in the corner, a creator who's aware at all of anything that's going on in the social media realm of it will go, that's a company that I know their creators love their readers and that they just want to make awesome, fun comics. And that means a lot. So I'm glad that we got to this point in a way.
Yeah, it's good to go through. It's painful to go through it. It's good that you went through it and you're on the other side. And I do think you're on the wind's at your back, so to speak. Your titles are selling in our area. They sell, not just my shop, but other shops. They sell. I know a lot of us still have copies of Ant-Man on the shelf. Just saying.
That's a big thing right there. The fact that there's so many books that still sit on the shelf, my shop, God bless them, but I've told them about, you could order directly from you, Peter. I've told them, but I think they're kind of stubborn. Unfortunately, it's like they just want to deal with Diamond and how Diamond has treated you. And I ain't saying it's a conspiracy. But
Diamond, actually, to say something nice about Diamond, and I don't know.
Wait! I'm gonna say something nice. It's 10:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on September 27th, 2018. Somebody's gonna say something nice about Diamond.
I'm gonna actually say something. I'm gonna actually say it's like groundbreaking tonight on this show. I'm gonna say something nice about Diamond. So after months, probably like 9 to 10 months of watching thousands of reorders just die at Diamond, I actually got 2 reorder purchase orders from Diamond for several hundred copies of different books. So we actually will be able to send out and fulfill some of these reorders that are piling up. And that's a wonderful thing. And we needed a little bit of time for it because one of them, Blood Realm, is at the printer right now, going back to print. And they extended the purchase order date by 2 extra weeks so we could fill that. And I was like, wow, this is pretty nice.
Hey, you came through the fire. You came through the fire, and hey, things are working out.
Somebody was drunk over there at Diamond.
Oh, something else. Something else I have to say nice at Diamond as well. 2 weeks ago, the people that run the Previews World site approached us about wanting to start featuring at least one Alterna title and give them a feature on the Previews World site. So that was kind of cool too.
What planet is this? My heart can't take this. I can't.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, we're complimenting a company whose job it is to market, finally doing the smallest possible effort to market. But I'm glad they are.
Yes.
This is baby steps here.
Gotta give credit where credit's due. You know, if I'm gonna be pissed when things don't go right and they should go right, I'm gonna definitely give credit when it's due.
You mean you don't tell a narrative? Oh my goodness! A night of firsts. Oh man.
We're gonna break the internet tonight. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I put in a chat. I sold through on Iceman, so it is a completely strange week. Finally, they're all gone now.
They're all 8 copies, right?
All 8 copies are out the door.
You know, when you put them through the shredder, that doesn't count as sales.
No, I feel so. There's a decent love, and this is where I think a lot of the publishers, they don't understand their audience as well. So there's still a lot of love in the Marvel X-Men fandom for Emma Stone, for Emma, and so I pointed out, printed off a little card. She's coming up in issue 2, so you better get this issue because issue 2 she's showing up, and the comics finally crawled out the door. Now I feel a little skeezy doing that because I know for a fact that the character showing up in issue 2 is not one anyone wants to read. But hey, they're sold. It's fine.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? As a retailer, and you're moving books, and maybe it reaches the right person. You know, I want every book. I know I made a joke about the Iceman book, but I want every book to fly off the shelf. I could care less what the book's about, who made the book, whatever. There's a book for everybody, and they should all be read and bought, and all the stores should be supported for carrying these books. So I'm glad to hear that you're having some success with this title, a title that many are struggling with.
No, well, I mean, some people. This is, and you asked the question earlier, I think, Larry. It's why aren't the retailers doing more to order direct and everything else? For one thing, I mean, not to pull out the tiny violin here, but a lot of retailers, they're not having a good time. You know, retail in general is not having a good time. Forget about just comics. It's just hard to be a retailer doing anything. And so your day sucks. You're working, you know, if you're any kind of retailer, you're working more than 8 hours a day by far. And you have to order, and the ordering systems, comics anyway, are antique. They don't do a lot to help you. You now taught yourself, unless you're insane, to really research the solicits, because what you see out of previews or any of the other sources are usually crap. So you're waiting to the last possible minute for cutoff orders to kind of see if artists have been swapped out or some shenanigans have been pulled. So that's where your day is going. And your day is going to the shop, and then every single hour after that is spent just trying to figure out what you're doing. For a lot of retailers, it is the extra 20 minutes in the day they don't have, or they don't want to spend. They want to go home and drink themselves to sleep, or whatever they're wanting to do. That's the problem on the retail side of the business. Is it is not easy for comic shop owners to just run their shop, to know what to order, to bring it in. There's not a lot of services to help them do that. And so once they get kind of over the hump, they push themselves to actually order direct, then it's easy. They know how to do it. They actually save time. But it's hard to pull that, to take that step, because you are so to the wire every single day.
Absolutely. And I don't begrudge any shop if they don't want to necessarily do the ordering direct thing from us. That's perfectly fine. I mean, as long as they get the books in somehow, some way, that's fine with me. If a shop does want to order direct, they will make a little more money on our books because we give a 55% discount to retailers, and we do free shipping on orders of $25 or more if they are a US based store. So they'll make some more money when they sell our stuff. They can access back ordered books that they can't get through Diamond. They can get those through us direct, and it's an easier system. But at the same time, again, I don't begrudge a retailer for going, oh man, this is like one extra step I might have to take on some books that, you know, may or may not sell. I know that's how they're viewing it. So no problem with it.
It will get there. It will get there. I mean, and we just continue, and you're doing the right things, making these inroads. You make people aware. You make it easy to sign up. I think there's a bunch of us up here are working on ways to try and figure out how to connect shops to publishers direct wherever they're available, and get the word out and put it in Facebook groups and all the rest. And that's what, you know, it will start to happen. It's a lot of breaking habits, and a lot of comic shops are built on habits.
Well, I appreciate you breaking down that, and thanks for, you know, like clarifying it. It makes me like, oh wow, I need to reevaluate things. But I don't have that perspective. I used to, you know, back from 2005 to 2008, I used to, every Wednesday, I used to be in a comic book store. I used to be there, and I got to the point where I was actually help, you know, like when they'd get late deliveries and stuff like that, and I'd, you know, put books on the shelves, and I'd pull out back issue boxes, put something back, but this, I was helping out around the shop, and I kind of like an unpaid intern, because I just love comics that much. I was like, I'd rather be doing this than, you know, drinking or anything like that. So it's like, hey, comics, right? But then, you know, I looked at the finances and looked at maybe getting that shop, and I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for retail. I don't think I could be a comic book store co-owner. It's just not in my blood. But seeing like how the potential for retailers, if those that are inclined to break that habit, to start getting contact directly with publishers, and, you know, not necessarily directly bypassing Diamond potentially in the future, who knows, but ordering directly from, you know, like Alterna, or, you know, insert other company here, like, and getting, so it's going from the company that makes it to the store that sells it. Or hell, I miss the days like the potential of subscription services. I understand on the Alterna Etsy store there is a Alterna subscription, correct?
Yeah. So we updated every month as new books come out, and then it'll dwindle down in price as well as the amount of books you're going to get. So that's the only type of pre-order we have for customers at all. I'm trying to work on something where we can actually do a ship to store thing, but I don't think it's really going to end up working out the way I want it to work out. So instead of half-assing it, I don't think we're going to end up doing it at all. But it's something that I like to provide. I like to provide options, as many as possible, to people. And, you know, whether it's the Etsy store or Comixology or Amazon or their local comic shop, or, you know, wherever, as long as they're getting the comics in a way that they feel comfortable with doing so, and is easy for them to do. Because I'm not into necessarily shaming a customer on how they want to purchase something. I'm not going to sit here, and I know a couple retailers really bemoan anyone who purchases anything on Amazon. I get it to an extent, but at the same time, don't tell me, if you're a retailer, that you don't purchase anything ever on Amazon or any other big box store. So, you know, it's we kind of forget the equation of also that we're all consumers and customers of things too. So I understand that, you know, oh man, Amazon and competitor and this and that, but I don't want to shame anyone into, you know, if that's where they want to purchase something, because maybe they have an Amazon gift card or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to go, well, you know, you really should have ordered that from your local comic shop. And honestly, sometimes they just can't get it at their local comic shop, especially when it comes to a lot of our graphic novels. Most shops don't really order them. And if they do, they get like one or two, and then they sell out or whatever it is, and then that's it. So I'm not going to sit there and, you know, give someone the lecture about stuff. That's not even who I am in general anyway. I'm not about to lecture people, especially customers that are buying the books and supporting the books. So, you know, get them however you want to get them. We have orderalterna.com, which is the nice and easy link to go to the Etsy shop. But we also have alternacomics.com/retailers. So you can actually see most, if not all, of the retailers, the comic shops that do carry our comics. Some of them carry a few, some of them carry the whole line. So it's a helpful thing to go on there and look up your state or even your country, because we do a lot of international sales too, and see if your local comic shop's on the list, or see if there's a shop in your state maybe you weren't aware of, and you can check it out and find a new shop to go to. So it's something that, you know, we do everything we possibly can to get more exposure for shops too, including in the back of every single issue we have a store directory as well that always gets updated too.
Yeah, I'm in there.
Yep, you are. And so this is just a helpful thing as well, and you know, we do whatever we possibly can, and as much as we can. I wish we could do more. Maybe one day we'll be able to, but you know, baby steps with stuff, because if we run before we can walk, we're gonna completely just run right off a cliff and do the thing that most small businesses end up doing, which is you take on too much too soon. You store massive amounts of inventory. You do massive amounts of advertising and marketing. You hope and pray it all works out. It almost never does, and you're filing bankruptcy within a year. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I've learned a long time ago, because we're not new. Don't do that.
You have to build a stable foundation, and I think to what you said earlier, it's very true. And this is a retailer talking. You have to learn how to live with Amazon. Amazon's not going anywhere. I mean, it's $1 trillion company, I think, at this point, and it's a fact of life. So if you're a retailer, you got to figure out how to coexist, because you're not going to beat them, and you're not going to beat that convenience. So you have to come up with, you know, what is your value? Your value is probably service. It's, you know, that kind of one-to-one interaction that Amazon can't provide, because they're just a website ordering form. But figure out a way that you can add some value. Figure out a way that when somebody does go to Amazon, you don't. You know, I've watched retailers, and I have friends of mine who have gone on a jihad against customers who come in and say they got something from Amazon. That's stupid. You just lost yourself a customer. You got to figure out a way to exist with this entity, because it's not going anywhere. And if you play it right, Amazon can be a funnel into your shop.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's one of the things that people forget, the fact that the convenience of Amazon. Yes, we understand that it's, you know, it does take, but if you're looking into a shop and looking for direct, you know, a certain trade paperback or collection, and they have, you know, book 1, 3, 4, so on and so forth, and you want book 1 and 2, or you want book 2, and they don't have that, you know, ordering it from the shop is like, I could probably get it quicker from Amazon, unfortunately, you know, because they place the order, you know, maybe Diamond delivers it next week, maybe I could get it quicker, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and that's the unfortunate thing, because I got to drive an hour to both shop. Really, there's 3 shops in my area. One shop I go to on a pretty regular basis. Another shop I go to occasionally, and there's a third shop that I haven't been to in quite a while. So it's like very Blue Moon like, and so but each one's an hour away, and that's a slog. I mean, I have to tie it into at least 2 or 3 other reasons to go to that area, to go to my shop, not to pick up books on a regular basis. Because back in the day, I used to spend like minimum $50 a week. I was a pay pig when it came to comic books. Back in the day, I was just throwing money at the comic shop, and I had books I was picking up because everybody's like, "Oh, this is a great book. Oh, if you don't like it now, it'll get better. Oh yeah, really? Okay." And instead, like, "No, this is crap. I don't want to read this." I didn't have the spine, but seeing but the potential of, you know, like, getting more customers, like, you know, more flies with honey. Yes, sometimes you don't want the flies around, but hey, the flies are coming around, and if you're a frog, you need them, you know. And most publishers and retailers are frogs. I mean, yes, a nice princess comes along and kisses them, and they turn into a multimedia franchise, a la McFarlane, Todd McFarlane. It's like a guy that he stuck with it. He didn't go to Marvel. He ain't running DC. Makes great toys. Had probably the best cartoon animated show based on the comic book out there. So much I love X-Men. Spawn still holds up, because there's some of the X-Men gets really ropey when they were just being, hey, we could do next season cheaper, and the next season cheaper after that. But Spawn just being, I think the cartoon was better than the comics most of the time, if not all the time.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. That cartoon was kind of groundbreaking. But yeah, looks like Ryan Wynn said, Peter, a shop owner said you're offering a fill a spinner rack retailer offer / deal. True? I don't think so. Not to my knowledge. Yeah, we're definitely not. We don't have any spinner racks to send out or anything like that. We've got like little, they're behind this. We've got little like countertop cardboard display things that can hold like 20 comics or something, but we're not offering like a fill a spinner rack deal. That'd be great. I'd love to do that, but yeah, I don't think we're doing that. No. I wonder what shop owner said that.
It's if your shop doesn't carry Alterna or for that matter any indie, but you like the titles, like the content, or you're wanting to take a chance on something. It's easier with Alterna because of the cover price, but go into your shop and talk to the store owner and say, here's $10. Like literally give them $10 and say, I want to just pre-order the next basically this amount of money worth of comics, and put them on my pull list and just sign me up. And even though you can get the comics, direct and other things yourself, try that out. Your retailer, most of them, 99% of them are motivated by cash. So if you go in there and you put money on the table and say, I want this, the retailer is going to order your $10 worth plus more for the shelf, because they're going to say, if one guy's willing to come in here with $10, and there's probably one or two more people out there who've got some other money, and the cover price is good, and that's how you get Alterna going into your store. Risk-free for you. You're spending the money anyway. It's $10. I mean, that is going to work every time, and you'll start that channel, and never also forget the value of the one thing that we do see on social media. Bad news doesn't really hammer the store, but promotion does. If you promote a title on social media, you get it out there. You take a snapshot of a couple pages to show some of the art and what you're seeing in it. Those kinds of recommendations are gold right now.
Absolutely. That's some pretty solid advice, especially when it comes to the promotion too on social media. I wish more creators would do that.
Well, there's something Perch mentioned a while back. Instead of just posting photos, oh, this is my buy pile and hashtag whatever. Like if you actually promote a book, like here's the book I picked up, and maybe like a photo or two of the inside, and I talk about it. Like you do threads on Twitter. You just reply to that initial post like 2 or 3 times, and so you can kind of get somebody interested. Like, hey, I bought a stack of comics. I'm like, okay, that's great, but what is that actually? If these are books you're already going to buy, you're not really doing anything going above and beyond. This isn't like promoting a stack of books or a spread, and talking like Perch has gotten in my head. So now if I buy something, I'm like, hey, this is what I bought. This is my thoughts on. This is what it looks like on the inside. That kind of thing. Not really a review, but it's like, hey, this is what I thought. Technically, it's a review, but it's not like, here's 15 minutes of me just slowly flipping through the book, talking about every little thing. I'm like, who's got time for that? 15 minutes to hear somebody drone on about a book? It's like as good as books. I can read the book in 15 minutes. Most books, anyways, unless it's like you're really dense, like somebody's writing like a UK style where it's like 20 panels a page and everything's like cramped in there and tiny little lettering and really detailed work. But I have a question for both of you. Something I've been thinking about because Peter had brought this up about, and I talked with my postman, my local postman, about this, about the shipping regulations and how weight is an issue, of course, but size, and that the traditional comic size, even if you can get it printed cheap, like with your upcoming printing program, Peter, the like you can 50 cents, plus, breaks down like 50, 60 cents a copy, 32 pages, black and white or full color, right? Yep. With the covers and everything. That shipping, even within the States, it like $1.50, $2, if not more, depending on like where it's going, right? So it's like it could add up,
Yeah.
Profits.
Yeah, first class mail has gone through the roof, more or less. A lot of this stuff we still kind of ship media mail and cross our fingers about it. I really don't get any. I mean, I'll ship like maybe 4,000 packages and get one of them that gets opened up or something, and they'll go, "This isn't media mail," or sometimes they just get opened up and just move them along. For those that don't know, comic book single issues aren't technically considered media mail, but if they don't open up the package and see it and whatever, that kind of just moves along. Graphic novels are considered media mail. It's an advertising thing, and it's kind of an archaic and very weird categorization for mail. But if you do first class mail, you're talking about, for a comic, it's about maybe $3, especially if you're not just putting a comic just in a flat envelope and saying, here you go. If you actually want to secure that thing and make sure it arrives in good condition to somebody, it's going to be about $3 for postage, probably about 50 cents or so for the packaging. So it can get costly to just send along like one comic. But if someone orders a whole bundle, a whole lot of them, that's when the shipping and everything else starts to not become too much of a factor. But in terms of weight, it definitely is a factor, because these newsprint comics are about 1/3 of the weight of a standard comic. So, you know, if you're doing 1 or 2 or 3 issues, who really cares? But if you do like 50, if you mail off like 50 of them, you notice the price increase pretty quick. And then especially from the printer to distribution, or, you know, sending it UPS or FedEx or whatever, you're really going to notice a big increase in shipping compared to from, you know, using newsprint to using something that's more along the lines of like a 60-pound, 70-pound paper stock. So there's all those kind of factors involved. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't really think about, that's also a cost-saving feature of going to newsprint.
Well, the main thing I was thinking of, because you know, well, I've been making comics for about 8 years, and they've been mini comics. That's the thing I do. I have a indie comics mindset. Where there's a will, there's a way. One sheet of paper, a pen, technical pen, a stapler, and a photocopier, and I can make you a comic book. And I could, you know, like I've done some where it's actually take one sheet of paper and I can make a 2 8-page comics. Basically, it's a copy, so I can make just to hand out as a, instead of a business card or, hey, this is what I do kind of thing, hand them out at conventions, walk around, hey, talk to a creator, hey, this is what I do. It's like, oh, is this free? I'm like, yeah, take it, and all that stuff. So it's like, instead of like, oh, here's a business card, or carrying a big book around, it's like a stack of mini comics, tracks, like chick tracks, like with the, you know, with Dark Dungeons and like that kind of size, but with different content, of course. And up to a certain size, I've noticed, I currently am selling this comic called Ace #1 Anthology Comic Experiment. I think it was in the works. I think it came out on a Wednesday. That helped, as well as 2000 AD and a couple other things like Marvel Comics Presents. Just having all these things in my head at one time. It's like, hey, just do 4 short stories. But it is it fits within a 6x9 envelope, and I could ship it out for under $1. The envelope packaging and all that stuff, and it balances out to where I can make some profit on the books, but without, if any bigger, I can ship international without having to fill out customs forms. That's another thing people forget. If you're shipping outside the States, you have to worry about customs on certain packages, and letters and little small envelopes like this don't have to, but the bigger you get, and especially if like you get, I know someone, they did a Kickstarter. They're proud of this book. They did an anthology book, and it was a beautiful book. They did not take into account of international buyers, and so the shipping killed them. They went into debt because of the shipping, because it was either you take these people's money and not give them the book, or you ship it out and go into debt. So it's like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. And that's something that's always been in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, do crowdfunding, and then here's a bunch of international shippers, and I didn't take into that effect. I'm like, oh no, it's going to kill me. It's like the book, I think it was like a $40 book, and it costs like $45 to ship it to international most locations, because it's a hardcover too, and it's heavy paper stock, and none of this really thin mess. It's like, oh boy, it's like 200-page book, and it put this person in debt, like really bad, and it was like really unfortunate. It happened, but to learn from others' mistakes and to see what other people have done and what can happen to them, and to wonder if, because so many a lot of people that read comics today, at one point in time, seems like they have previously read manga. And there's some more crossover than it was 10, 15 years ago. And the idea of reading smaller format comics, and the fact that smaller comics means, you put more on a shelf, they're cheaper to ship. And would they be marketed Perch? And would you even consider something like that, Peter? Would that's I figure both you two would know, considering you're both in both worlds, but could you conceive that happening? Smaller format comics, like manga sized, digest sized, which are
we have that. Actually, all of our graphic novels are 6x9, and then our anthologies are like 5.5 by 7.5, so they're closer to manga size. And we've been doing that. That's predominantly actually what we were doing for 10 years.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that all of them were like that. I had seen one of the anthologies at my local shop. I believe it was the superhero anthology.
Yeah, I'll grab one actually. Let me. I'll be down in a second.
No, I mean, Peter's right. It absolutely is something that could work. It is the big publishers. I mean, they've locked into a format that the big retailers, the Barnes and Nobles, the Scholastics, the others are expecting, and so it's a little bit harder for them to change tracks. But there's no reason why you can't go out with this kind of format or other formats. And the whole thing is kind of silly because, as you say, there's tons of manga out there that are doing exactly this. So it's just a matter of kind of protecting the line and protecting the brand, and in kind of a dumb way. But Peter's going to hold up something cool, I think.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, so here's the single issue. This is standard comic size. Here is our 99% of our graphic novels. You notice that it's about a half an inch difference on each side. These are 6x9. And then we've got the anthologies we do, which are 5.5 by 7.5. And they're all different sizings.
See, that right there, that, the anthology size, like, I was thinking how, like, because we're so trained as American comic book readers, and most of the world, the UK has the magazine size stuff, 2000 AD, the French, the Belgians, all that stuff. They have similar, but they also have varying sizes as well. The Japanese and those in other countries, other Asian countries as well, where I know they have different comic book sizes. The manga size, they also have, it varies in size. And the idea that, this can only, that size means it's a manga, and it's like, size is size. It's like digest stuff, like the Archie books, the Archie double digest stuff you'd see in checkout lines at like Walmart or Piggly Wiggly. And I was thinking, like, individual comics, like monthly books that size, which you think like a Brian Hitch probably wouldn't work on that size. You might need something bigger and to show off all that detail. But considering how cartoony comics, something like Kirby, something John Buscema, Mike Allred, these kind of creators, like the full down straight up comic book cartooning, comic booking would work great. And I think majority of Alterna titles, like if you were to put monthly Alterna titles at digest size, like where, because in a way it's almost less intimidating.
Like single issues you're talking about?
Single issues. Yeah, because I mean, like because Scrimshaw would probably have to be standard size, considering how much detail is in the artwork. I think there, also
for me it'd be fine, but to be perfectly honest, it's not going to be fine for a comic reader. Most of them are not going to be accepting of a single issue at that size. That's just what I've found from a lot of people.
I found that out too.
Yeah. 6x9 is a standard like book industry size. That's kind of why we did this size for such a long time. It also, you get a way cheaper price if you do 6x9 because they can put more signatures per sheet on the paper. Same thing pretty much for this size as well. Comic size, standard comic size is such a wonky size. It's not really that great in terms of economy of space on a sheet, on a roll of paper. You could get more out of it with like 6x9 and stuff like that. But in terms of putting out an issue that's that size, you're going to get people that look at that and they go, this feels really weird. And it's all about that kind of thing. It looks odd in a box. To do the bags and boards and all that stuff, it's going to look really weird for people. So yeah. So what was your experience with it?
Oh, Perch or me?
You. I think you said you had a bad experience. You did something at that size or whatever you found.
Well, see, I used to sell my books about, if you take a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, you fold it in half twice. You fold it, length and then landscape and then portrait. You get a quarter. I used to sell comics at that size. Now, I'd make a little bit, but once I started going bigger to like ash can size, like digest size, I started selling more. And I was like, well, if I go bigger, I can possibly make more money, but also it's going to cost more money because of shipping and so on and so forth. The upfront costs. Right now, I can go to pretty much any place as a color photocopier and make up a new, like, oh, I ran out of this print run, I'll go make some more comics. And I could, I do commissions as well. If somebody wants to do I want the comic and a commission. I want 2 copies. I want 2 or 3. I've had people buy multiple copies, which is great. But that I've noticed that at a certain size, you'll only get, because in the indie comics side of things, from my perspective, it's a lot of politically active, socially conscious, as it were, socialist-leaning people. The smaller comics you go, the more communist-like it gets. And then it's like, but you're selling your books, you're making money, you're participating in capitalism while you're saying capitalism is evil and all this. It's just hilarious. But the bigger it goes, like it, as far as conventions go, like it will be, getting, have the 500 copies. Like that would be great to have a convention. I could put them in my car, I could haul them, no big deal. But mailing them out, unless I was doing like bundles or like combining it with like a commission or something, like, hey, or selling multiple books at one time, like you were saying, it's the bigger the size, the more detrimental it is to me. It's like a small operation like what I do, but the problem is like marketing it to potential customers, like they're so used to the traditional comic book size, and it's hard. It's a big ask of people. To pay.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, I mean, we've had a lot of brand managers at Diamond, and 2 years ago we had one that said if we did, and this was before single issues, that if we did the graphic novels on a standard single issue size, we might see an increase in sales. And I was like, I said, whatever increase we got in the sales, honestly, would completely be negated by the fact that we're paying more money on the print costs because the size is a specialty size. And they couldn't understand that. And I said, okay, well, long short of it, we're not going to do that. So they had said because of the fact that comic customers were very particular with sizing. And that is true to an extent. That definitely is true. Graphic novels, I find that they're not as particular. They're particular if, let's say this is like a series, Trespassers, a series, let's say, and this is volume 1. Now, if volume 2 is this, yeah, you're going to piss some people off because they love the uniformity. So that is completely understandable. But in terms of, if they're all that size, that's fine. But single issue size, especially, I think that's a risk, and I'm a risk taking kind of guy. But even that's a risk that I'm not sure I want to roll the dice on.
You're not a betting man when it comes to that. It's like, I'm playing a little close to the vest with this one.
Yeah. I think it's ground that's great to experiment on for something like an ash can, or like maybe even a convention exclusive edition or something like that, and see how that goes over. But distribution is always going to be a little weird with that. And then there's going to be the majority of retailers that are also going to be very confused as to why that comic is such an odd shape once they receive it.
No, you're right. I think, I mean, again, retailers are strapped for time. So if you start confusing them, they don't have this sounds bad. They don't have the mental capacity in the day. It's not saying they're stupid. They're just, their day is full. So if you start throwing curveballs at them, they're already trying to figure out how to move the content they have. And if you start bringing different sizes and other things into the mix kind of randomly, then now it's okay. Now what am I going to do for shelf space, and what am I going to do? And unfortunately, the default answer for a lot of retailers is if they can't figure out what to do with it, they just kind of put it in a pile somewhere out of sight, and it never sells. And eventually, they're carting it down to half-price books. So it's something that could grow, but it's got to grow intelligently. It's got to grow through, I mean, maybe an option is you take a look at some manga that's already coming into the shop at a certain size and a certain format, and you piggyback off that, and you market and promote it like that, of saying, now in manga format, just like this other thing you already know and trust. You've almost got to ease retailers into that familiarity. And I think you're right. The same thing with the readers. The readers, they don't want to be, unfortunately, the readers surprised by bad things all the time. They don't really want new bad surprises.
I think the idea of breaking that conditioning, because you're so used to one thing, and it's this, a lot of customers, now, and it's like pricing wise, I think that's, like I said before, the price of Alterna books, it's shocking. It's like, how can you do this? And it's like magic. It's not, it's just, it feels
paper
like
stock
magic.
in advertising. Ooh.
You mean if you don't use a glossy paper that never dries and just have house ads in there, you might actually be able to charge less than $5 a copy.
Boy, oh boy. It's so funny, especially when I hear it too from a lot of other publishers. They'll go, we're paying like $1 and change per book. How are you doing this? For like, our print cost on a book costs almost as much as your cover price. And I'm like, well, we do ads and it's newsprint, so it's about 1/3 of the cost. And I'm like, I'm not doing this and we're just losing money. And I'm just like, oh man, please, movie dollars come in. No, I don't see any of the movie dollars anyway. It's a creator-owned enterprise. So if it's a movie deal, which would be fantastic for these guys, but I don't see a dime from that, and I don't want to see a dime from it. So the print cost is super low as it is, because of the newsprint, and then we sell ads, which cuts like the cost in half. So I mean, we're paying like, I don't even know, per book. It's an ungodly, unseemly amount that I could, if I was to sell these things direct, like what we're doing with AlternaWeen, where we're selling a large amount direct, we're still actually making profit on that. It's 60 cents a book, and we're still making profit.
Don't tell me these things. This is mind melting. I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact.
Yeah, so everyone, it's like, don't feel like, oh man, you guys are gonna go under. You're gonna just be losing money. You're gonna ship these out. You're gonna lose money and all this other stuff. Shipping's free, because everybody sees that, goes, wow, $30. Okay, well, what's the shipping? And I'm like, it's free. It's included. And they're like, how is that impossible? You're not making any. It's like, we're still making money. We're still making money on it. Like, don't worry. So it's a whole sales by volume thing, which is what print matter used to be. It used to be that whole concept of, it's okay if we have like these small tight margins, because we're selling so many in volume, so we're making a lot more money per nickel and diming every single copy of an issue. It's that mentality where creators are thinking, $5 a book is not enough for what we're doing on it. Yes, if that is the only copy and is your original art, $5 is completely ripping yourself off. But if you're selling thousands of these things, you can sell them for less, and you should sell them for less, because the smaller you have that cover price, you have that economy of scale. You have all these people that are going to be into the product. They're going to be trying it out. They're going to be sticking with it longer. They're going to be buying other things associated with that product. If these Alterna books were $3 or $4 or $5, we probably see half of the orders we get, which means we see half of the readers we get, which means by issue 2, when that drop off occurs, we're looking at really small numbers. And by issue 3 or 4, we're probably looking at cancellation from Diamond, as opposed to, I mean, I'm looking at sales figures half the time, and our outright direct sales figures sometimes surpass a lot of different Image, Dark Horse, Boom, Vault, Aftershock, etc. kind of books. But then we have a lot of direct sales that we do. We have newsstand sales. We have all kinds of other outlets where we sell the books. So we're selling like possibly about, I'd say maybe twice the amount of books that get listed on Comicron in terms of overall sales figure. So we have an all-encompassing kind of thing where it's hard to see all the avenues line up like that. But it's off the back of $1.50 comics, and it's because people can afford to read more. Anything that looks halfway decent, they're going to pick it up, and they're going to be pleasantly surprised because they're going to enjoy like 90% of whatever they read from Alterna.
Well, this is where, I mean, Alterna, the way it's priced and the way it's kind of marketed, and if you're in the shop, you want to market it almost as like an impulse buy, especially to new readers. They're coming in and they're gonna want to buy the, you know, death porn that's Heroes in Crisis, or you know, whatever title they've been hearing about. And when there's something that's $1 and you can pick up an entire run of a limited series for $4 or under $5, you get a complete story of an arc. That's appealing. It becomes an impulse buy, and that's what comics used to be. I mean, if you can go back to the olden times and you're looking at a grocery store or convenience shop, when you were a kid, comics were largely impulse buys. You weren't thinking like a collector back then. You were buying something because the cover looked cool, the art looked cool, or you know, your parents wouldn't let you have candy, so you're going to settle for a comic or whatever it happens to be. These are how a lot of kids grew up with comics. And so being able to put that kind of thought back in people's heads, the impulse buy didn't go away. It's why they market products in the checkout line at a grocery store. People still buy and purchase that way. And if you can get comics as one of those things, they will sell. And so that's what you've done. And I think retailers who are smart will do that, because you need product that's going to be for collectors. You need products that's going to be quicker sales. So, you know, having this stock that you can move cheap without having to dig into unselling. You know, I watch a lot of retailers bend over backwards to get rid of back issues that just won't sell. And so they have like 10 random comics in a bag for $5. And they're like, we'll put the most attractive one on the cover, and then there'll be a bunch of crap in the middle. Everybody knows it's pardon my expression, it's a shit sandwich. They know what's in the middle of the bread. So those bags have diminishing returns. If you go to your comic shop and you see the grab bag, they don't move. This is stuff where you've got good quality content, first run content, new, affordable price, get in early. It's key to the industry. So it's why it's good for me and it's good for you. So we like it.
Thank you.
And it's going to read. And the thing about it is the money, you know, after Peter's cut goes directly to the creators. I mean, the creative team. This isn't getting funneled through the creators, the Alterna creators. Peter, people like you guys, and there are people outside Alterna, of course, that have to hustle. You guys hustle for your money, and that hustle is real, and it's not easy. Marvel, DC, these creators, hell, even Image, a lot of Image creators don't do it. The fact that reaching out to customers, like building, you know, a fan base, building, you know, it's like standing out there in the rain and trying to pass out flyers. Things might go horrible, but you might get a couple of people. But it's worth a shot. It's worth trying. And the fact that Marvel, DC, these corporate people, they're getting paid, they're work for hire, they don't own anything. You know, like everything that came out with Jim Starlin getting thrown under the bus, you know, as far as, you know, his projects. And, you know, then the book gets canceled not even, a year later. Which is just like, hey, Alan Davis, Jim Starlin, how could you go wrong? Brevoort's like, nope. So it's like these lack of vision with these people, and this idea of creators owning what they sell. You know, there you go. You own. You know, you create Scrimshaw, you own Scrimshaw. You create Eden, you own Eden. And the only thing Peter owns, anything of that thing, is the logo, and that right there. That's the deal. And it's like, are you okay with that? And I understand. You know, I saw your stream with Patrick just the other night. And a lot of people come into Alterna. They've previously done something before, and they come into Alterna and then continue on with their projects. And it's nice to see this stuff. It's like these people that love what they do, and you attract that. I think, you know, you attract that goodness. And I understand there are people that want to use you, Peter, as a rallying cry. It's like, look what they did to Peter. We're going after him. It's like, how dare they? It's like, you're just gonna sell your comics. You just want to get the books out there, get them to many people as possible. Treat people decently. You don't have to go and you don't praise. Like, oh, thank you so much. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Like every single person, like, you know, like slathering them with praise. But you treat people decently, and people lose their minds because what is this? This is some kind of scam. He's scamming these people.
And no, it's so sad sometimes when when I'll just have a normal, pleasant interaction with someone, and it'll be the first time or whatever that they're not accustomed to Alterna or me or anything. And I'll get like a DM sometime of someone who's very taken aback by it, and they're like, "Wow, thank you. I just want to say that it's so amazing that to interact with someone that's a comic creator, that you're so kind and you're so appreciative." And I'm like, "Oh man, it's so sad that like this is the state of the industry, where people are really just blown away by simple kindness and gratitude." It's man, oh man, like I'm so appreciative for those people, but at the same time, I'm so sad that this is where we've come to, because this is just common decency. I'm not doing anything above and beyond. I'm not doing anything that I view as like I'm going out of my way. I'm just, if someone says, "Hey, I bought a book that you helped produce, or that you wrote, or that you publish, or whatever it is," it's just common sense to me that you would just go, "Oh, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy it." I treat Twitter as if it's a convention or a signing atmosphere, so even if it's someone who, you might be dicey, or you might have a crazy name on there or whatever it is. And I'm treating it as if this is the virtual equivalent of, you came to my table at a convention and you picked up a book and you want to buy it, and how would I interact with you? And that's the only thing I do. That's it. I'm not going to sit there, and I'm not going to be at a show, and I'm not going to say, "Let me see your internet history first before you purchase. Let me see who you voted for in the past 5 elections," or whatever. I'm not going to, I don't care. If you're interested in the comics, if you want to have a nice, pleasant conversation, if you just want to say, "Hey, this was interesting to me. I liked it. I picked it up, and I hope I enjoy it," or that you did enjoy it, I'm going to be thankful for that. And that's what I'm going to continue to do, and that's what I've always done.
It's a smart stance, and it's also, like you said, it's strange that we find ourselves in this position. And if you think back to DC and Rebirth a couple of years ago, a lot of their early marketing for it was kind of the lightest touch of, "Hey, we screwed up a bit, and sorry, we had some crappy comics, but we're listening to you fans now. We listen to you, and we're going to put out things that we think you want." We, some light kind of humble apology, not even over the top, just kind of, we screwed up, we lost our way, but hey, we're listening to you now. And people bent over backward to support them. That whole marketing effort, you saw people writing blogs and doing shows of, wow, the company found its way. And I mean, if you read the comics, there was an attempt for a while, but many of them were largely the same kind of content they had. It was just pure goodwill to fans at the lightest possible touch. And it's telling that the industry is in such an odd place where any kind of just basic professional behavior, people bend over backwards to be thankful for it. Because there's so little of it. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. To many, it's a hobby. And it's something that you're paid very little, and it's not where your mind is going. And anyone who's really serious, and if you look at the people actually who are trying to make millions of dollars out of this, I bring up Miller a lot. You don't see him on Twitter getting into brawls with people. You see him hyping and promoting whatever Netflix deal he did and having kind of lighthearted fun. His time is spent elsewhere. And everybody who's trying to make a lot of money is behaving like you, or just not paying attention. Their attention's elsewhere. The people who are brawling are the people who are fighting over what's increasingly looking like scraps.
And that's a great point, because there's a lot of fact that people are focused on the wrong things and building towards the future. And the idea that, like you said, Perch, like you're reaching out, wanting to build like a better network to get people networked to retail, get the other retailers networked to the publishers, a direct line of dialogue, understanding that somebody at previews might drop the ball, but if you're in contact with these, the people that make the comics, you might actually have a potential of being able to market them better and getting them into people's hands. And like Peter, the fact that you are continuing, like you're expanding, you expand the scope of Alternates. Comics should be in as many people's hands as possible and be able to be seen and picked up. It's like if you're an hour away from a comic shop or more, like I and many others seem to be, because I mean, I'm just bad location. It's location, location, location. But if I could go down to the BP or, you know, a Marathon or a Hess and go in there and they have, you know, comics, they have some Alterna books, you know, there you go. It's like, you know, Eden, you know, I probably wouldn't have the chair there, of course. Maybe you get Mylar bags of the chair. You know, it's like for mature audiences only. But it's the fact that you guys are actually building something. You're working towards a goal and not just raging about something or just focusing on one narrow little aspect, like the here and now. Like, I gotta make as much money as I can here and now, and not think about the future. And you're thinking of the future, and you're trying to make things better for. You want books to sell. You want to get them in as many hands as possible. And I think to some that scares people, the fact that people are reaching out, they are building. Like, you know, it's in a way it could be like a Tower of Babel. It's like this is an affront. We got to tear this thing down. And it's kind of funny.
You know, people, misery loves company. And I think for a lot of people, it is, you know, they're in a bad spot. They don't know how to get out of it. It's this glass ceiling effect where you got some creators, some editors, some people who are just, you know, at a place. There's no future growth. So when they see, you know, others who are breaking past that and finding routes to go bigger, there's a natural jealousy. That's human nature that's going to come into play. And it's sad, but it is hard to kind of get out of yourself and realize that what's good for the industry ultimately is good for you. But it sure doesn't feel that way when you're, you know, scrounging and having to do GoFundMe's to, you know, buy food. I mean, that sucks. My heart goes out for those people, but that's what has to happen. The industry has to improve for everybody, including people that are jerks who are different from us politically and everything else. We all have to have an improvement to this industry, so we all can make more money. And you got to just kind of trust that life's going to sort the rest out. The people who are perpetual drama, you know, a-holes on Twitter are not going to be here in 5 years. That there's a long track record. Those people disappear. You know, Byrne was kind of a legendary jerk in places, but he was super talented. And so he lasted a long time. But a lot of, you know, the people who are now, their whole rep is based completely on coming onto Twitter every single day and spending 4 to 5 hours just, you know, clowning on people. And if that's your day, then you just got to hope that your shtick, you know, stays relevant, because it won't. You eventually have to bring something to the table.
Yeah, you know, it is a weird kind of outrage culture that we do live in right now when it comes to social media. It's such a short-sighted play when it comes to, you know, not just building a better industry, but also building your brand. You'll even notice a lot of the people that have been controversial within the past year are starting to water things down and have a little more focus on, like, wow, this is getting real. I got to start focusing on what's important. And I've seen that. I've seen a lot of people that before, you know, controversy and that kind of stirring the pot was a little bit of their MO, and they've started to shift gears a little bit, and it's become, you know, a serious thing for them as they've started to realize, well, you know, I've got no more time to waste on constantly just being, you know, this person that is agitating things. And I've actually got other things. I have obligations to fulfill. I have actual duties to attend to at this point. And I think that is a lot of what we're seeing, is that it's like you said before, if you're spending a large amount of time on social media and you're crapping on people, you're just kind of goofing off on there and causing more controversy than creating or promoting, you see it very clearly in the work, and you see it in terms of the sales of the work, because that's all this time you could have used spending it towards promoting your product and to all the things you worked very hard at. All these people spend enormous amounts of time not only doing a comic book that they're on, but the years and years and years of being able to learn and hone their craft. that's a lot of time. That's a lot of energy. And if you're going to utilize something as powerful as social media to count on people just clicking like or retweeting something because, you know, you're being snarky or you're putting someone in their place, does that really equate to success? Because in many cases it doesn't. And especially if you're at a professional level, I always view it as there is a difference in how you should interact if you're a professional as opposed to if you are a customer, a consumer, a reader. It's the same thing that, you know, if I go to a hockey game and my team is playing like crap tonight, I'm going to be booing them. I'm going to be pissed because I know they're capable of more. They're better than that. And as a paying fan, you're damn right I'm going to get to, you know, if I'm going to fly some expletives or whatever out and be really pissed at how they played, yeah, I'm going to. But I'm still going to come back to support. Now, if you see a player and you know, they're in the penalty box or whatever, and you're giving them some crap, 99.9% of the time, that player's just looking forward. They're ignoring it, and they're focused on the matter at hand. And it's almost like we don't have that kind of psychology within this system, within the comic industry, where the thick skin isn't there. People they're not even thin skinned. There's no skin. They're just completely exposed. And the second that someone even says, you know, something that's not abject adoration, not even being rude, but just nothing that's, you know, bending over backwards in praise, they get crazy and irate. I've had that happen to me. You know, just for having normal interactions with people. If the interaction wasn't steeped in me praising them, it got ugly very fast. It turned into like, you know, well, get out of my timeline, get out of my mentions kind of behavior. And it's like, okay, so we can't even just speak. It's very weird. It's a weird dynamic. And you know, so to see that play out, I think we're kind of seeing years and years of that coming to a forefront, and social media kind of breaks down that wall. So if you're seeing that as a reader, as a consumer, or whatever, you're going to kind of think twice before wanting to engage or most likely to support a lot of these creators.
No, it's true. It's you know, it's just a lot of people who aren't equipped to deal with the attention that they're getting. They're coming in unprepared. You know, there used to be in the shooter era and other eras at the big publishers, there used to be training of how to interact with fans. I mean, somewhere around this place, I've got a binder, like you're going to a con and you're going to do a signing. Here's some guidelines for you to not look like an asshole. This used to be pushed out. Now there's none of that. And you know, you're exactly right. I had the strangest interaction with a writer on, it was odd because several months ago, and I went on kind of very innocuous, and I thought I'm going to say something nice about something that everybody else is crapping on. So I said to the writer of the Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters title, hey, you know, you're doing a decent job with this title. The characterization is much more deep than it was in the movie. Nice to see these characters filled out. That was my post. And I had several of the producer and an actor on the movie coming in just crapping on me for hating on the film. And the writer that I complimented was like, hey, you have to like all these things equally. And I was like, I cannot believe I've got this attention over what is a dumb little comment. I mean, all right, I will back away quietly and never compliment you again. It's just weird.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so strange. Here's the glass half full way of looking at it. This industry, if you can come in and you can have basic good ideas and basic good interactions with people, the floor is wide open for you to succeed, because there's never been so much opportunity for somebody to come in with just basic professional skills and run the table. So that's a happy way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been the same way I was my entire career, and it's almost like the scale of being polite and having gratitude. You know, I've been kind of just like plateaued this whole time, just doing my thing, and the professionalism level has nosedived to the point that now it's like, you know, just saying thank you or whatever, it looks like such an enormous gesture. to people. And it's, like I said before, it's sad that we've got to this point. But again, you know, there's a lot of creators that are out there that are very great with their fellow creators and their readers as well. And it's important to support those people as well, and not just harp on, obviously, the ones that are the bad actors in it, and the people that are kind of driving everybody a bit nuts right now.
I honestly think that this idea of we're all in this together, people forget that. No matter if you are, you know, writing at Marvel, DC, or doing this, that, you're a colorist, you're a letterer, you know, you're putting out your own comics, you're running, you know, a web comic that you eventually want to collect, and you want to do a crowdfunding project, and the idea of running block bots on someone because of maybe potential political belief. And I'm friends with people that were other than a lot of, I like them personally, but, you know, there are things about them I don't like, but I try not to let that. I've known them for years. I have deep love for them, but we just don't talk about politics or religion, for that matter, or some socio-political thing. So I leave that off the table. But we're all in this together, and the fact that instead of working together and it's this, you know, division, and it's keeping us separate and having one of us fight amongst each other, and I don't see a point in the end game. It should be more comics in people's hands, less expensive comics. Yes, the comics can be a premium. You can do hardcover, oversized, you know, like French albums, like they do for, you know, Inkai Bilal, which Nikopol Trilogy, one of my favorite comics of all time. Pretty decent movie that they did for it. It's not as good as a comic, but, you know, what is? It's a French comic book movie. But that kind of, you can do that kind of project and also do a newsprint comic. You can do digest size books. You can do traditional size. Hell, you want to do an artist, kind of like an artist edition or something, do that. But we have to work together. And this cooperation, and even if it doesn't have to be full on, like arm in arm, and we're marching off smiley faces into the, you know, the sunset, and we're having a good time, and, you know, Sound of Music style stuff, but at very least not be at each other's throats. And, you know, this bickering, it's like, if you sometimes just not engaging with somebody that's hostile towards you, it's like all it does is just drag you down into the muck. And sometimes it's hard to get up once you're down there.
On that note, my computer is dying in like 5 minutes.
Oh, I was about to wrap it up anyway.
Okay, cool.
Well, the thing about this, because I understand you got stuff you got to do. You got to charge your computer. You have to package stuff up. There's people like, yeah, that's great, Peter, you're on here, but where's my comics? Seriously, dude.
It brought us together. I mean, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Love talking to Peter. I think we've got to start acting with more decisiveness, more noise, and I mean this in a good way, to promote good things and to push that things can get better. Work with facts. No, the entire comic industry is not going to go bankrupt in the next month. That's just crazy. Stop saying it. You lose credibility when you say that.
The industry's dying. The Perch industry's dying. Everybody says so. It's like,
no, it doesn't help. It's like, there are real problems. You can identify them. You can talk about them. So talk about them. This kind of hysteria is not helpful. And come with some ideas. I think, you know, thank you to all the people watching this. It's good. The people who are put money into Alterna and AlternaWeen. This is a good thing that gets more readers. That helps us all. Get some creators on here. We've got to get some of the people, especially some of the people with the big microphones. We have to start promoting some value here, because if we stay here and rage, the industry is just going to stay small. And right now, there's tons of opportunity to make this industry huge, and we gotta grab this moment.
Absolutely.
Seize the day.
Exactly. And just to have a little bit more of sports psychology in there, don't end up focusing too much on what the other team is doing. Play your game. Don't let them throw you off of yours. So if you're a fan, if you're a creator, if you're upset about the way things are going, don't let that other person or that thing that's occurring, don't let that throw you off of what you want to accomplish. If you are a fan who's an aspiring creator, let's say, don't be deterred that, oh, I don't want to create comics anymore. Comics look like it's an awful industry to get into. Comics is one of the greatest industries to get into. It's what you make of it. So there's all kinds of avenues. There's all kinds of wonderful creators within this industry. It just so happens that sometimes some of the loudest people can be some of the most negative. But there's thousands of people within this industry that are wonderful, wonderful people. You can go to any convention and see those people and interact and have great, amazing experiences. So don't be so down on comics. Everything's going to work out. I'm not just saying this because I'm just saying it. I mean it. There's a lot of great things that are going on that if you're losing your faith, you'll get your faith restored. And focus on the stuff you love and just talk about that. Try not to get too down in the dirt with everything else. But with that, I'm gonna have to take off because my computer's really doing the weird thing on me.
Okay, well,
and thank you guys for having me on. Great talking to both of you. Always awesome to do so.
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Perch. And this has been my favorite stream. So thank you guys. And until next time, folks, we will see you around. Good night, good luck, and hashtag Team Comics and AlternaWeen. So get on that. And until next time, folks, bye-bye.
Drink whiskey.